Was she part of the attack?
Never mind.
On the surface, it may seem like Homelander doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. Yes, he can't see through Zinc, and sometimes he gets beaten up by his ex-girlfriends, or the husbands of women he assaults, but there are at least 12 major weaknesses that he has. Did you know that he's quite vulnerable when he's flying? With Season 5 being the last season of this magnificent show, it's only prudent that we explore what makes Homelander vulnerable. So without further ado, let's begin. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
What happens if those brains of yours get blown out again?
Malignant narcissistic personality. What Homelander suffers through is essentially malignant narcissism, which is a psychological syndrome in which a person experiences a mix of sadism, antisocial behavior, of course narcissism, and sometimes an extremely paranoid outlook on life. Beyond an ounce of doubt, Homelander has these tendencies. There's a reason why he sometimes enjoys violence and chooses violence even when there's another way. Just ask Blindspot. Homelander simply cannot feel any degree of empathy. Maybe Ryan is an exception, who he tries to give what he never had, a loving father. However, Homelander's idea of love is as deranged as his mind. Now, these things often take a toll on him, and can be used against him in more ways than a few. When Sister Sage chooses to hide information about A-Train's involvement in helping the boys, she does it to ensure that Homelander doesn't kill A-Train, which he definitely would have. Of course, one of Homelander's closest confidants chose to keep information from him. People like Madeline Stillwell and Stan Edgar also use this against Homelander. The thing with him is that he's grandiose in his outlook of himself, and he's ever ready to become increasingly hostile. This makes him undermine the people near him and his organization he works for. He doesn't stop at undermining them. He outright dehumanizes those around him. But why? Well, firstly, he thinks that humans, in general, are beneath him. And secondly, he's sometimes paranoid. These things leave him alone at the top, and that's not because of how successful he is, but because of how unstable he is. Clearly, he doesn't understand the power of unity, and loneliness is probably one of his biggest weaknesses, something that would take him down eventually. And it all breeds from his narcissistic personality.
You're lucky I'm not sending you home in a bucket.
His elephantine ego and superiority complex. The strongest branches in a tree don't bend, and what does not bend, breaks. Such is the case with our friend Homelander. Now, due to his incredible power set, Homelander feels that he's basically unbeatable, which might be true to an extent, but if people put their minds to defeating him, it wouldn't be that hard. I'll get to these aspects in a bit. Anyway, his powers give him a huge superiority complex, which makes him believe he's better than humans and Supes. I mean, he even bashed Tech Knight before he called them equals. Apparently, you're not Supe enough if you can't even fly. Homelander's words, not mine. But eventually, Soldier Boy beat the crap out of him. And so did Maeve at one point, which totally fractured his ego, since Soldier Boy basically beat him down to submission. Homelander's deadhead gets all unstable and erratic when someone questions his supposed superiority, be it physical or intellectual. For instance, let's talk about the party at Tech Mansion, where he revealed his plan to put the Supes on top. In that episode, Sister Sage, the mastermind behind all of Homelander's plans, was supposed to explain to the who's who of the US government about how he was planning to run a multi-billion-dollar MNC, and how he was gonna run the country after overthrowing the elected government. Needless to say, his stupid brain couldn't come up with any answers. He had absolutely no idea how to address these issues, let alone answer the specific and pinpointed questions that the men and women were throwing at him. You see, he was always raised as a raging bull in captivity. He was never educated or trained to tackle such intellectual questions. In fact, I doubt how much education he has about US politics or economy. Finding himself in a tough spot, a spot where he could no longer act like the most superior being in the world, made him visibly uncomfortable. His mind fell into a state of instability and panic, and his god complex took a serious hit, which only made him vulnerable.
Come here now.
Lack of training. Since time immemorial, Homelander has relied on his over-the-top physical strength and Superman-like abilities to silence, fight, and kill people. The moment he was placed in a position where he had to fight someone like Queen Maeve or Soldier Boy, he faltered. Yes, he can totally beat the crap out of someone who doesn't have as much strength as he does, but when it comes to someone who's his equal and also has combat training, Homelander fails to stand its ground. Maeve is an exceptional fighter and knows how to engage people in hand-to-hand combat, but Homelander, not so much. I mean, Maeve is based on Wonder Woman and is one of the few Supes who does justice to the heroes from whom they were inspired. On the other hand, Soldier Boy is like the crass version of Captain America, and knows how to throw a punch or to dodge one. Additionally, he's just as durable as Homelander, or maybe more. This ensured that Soldier Boy beat him to a pulp, and with the combined strengths of Soldier Boy and Temp V injected Butcher and Huey, Homelander found himself on the ground waiting to be annihilated. Alas, Soldier Boy made the mistake of hurting Ryan, which didn't sit well with Butcher or Homelander. So yeah, no matter how strong you are, you gotta be a master of a few trades if you want to remain unbeatable. Blunt force and limited durability. Now, he's just not durable enough to counter every Supe there is, and I'm not even talking about the big guns like Maeve or Soldier Boy. Yes, I agree that most attacks that land on Homelander don't seem to have much of an effect, and you cannot even spot a visible injury on his super strong body. However, he's not invincible when you hit him with extreme force. For example, do you remember Kimiko's brother, Kenji Miyashiro? Well, he was a Supe with telekinetic powers, and he used them to bury Homelander under numerous tons of debris and rocks, and even a bus. This left Homelander buried under the rubble for quite a while, and he could free himself only after struggling for several minutes. So this means that if you buried him under more mass, it would keep him down for a longer period of time. The only Supe who can do this right now is Cindy, but she's playing for Homelander, at least for now. Then there are people like Ryan and Stormfront, who have also managed to at least knock him down, if not knock him out cold. I just explained what Soldier Boy and Butcher did to Homelander, so much so that they left him with a bruise. Now that's a sight you don't see every day. If you remember his duel with Maeve, she managed to make him bleed. Guess he's no Superman. So yeah, if you hit him hard enough and long enough, you can kill him. Additionally, I believe his eyes are way softer than the rest of his body, and if someone targeted them while they were open, they could do some real damage there. The only other thing that really speaks about his vulnerability and limited durability is that he suffered an insurmountable amount of pain when the Vought scientists experimented on him as a child. It was enough to traumatize him for the rest of his life. During these moments, he would scream and cry, and although he had the option of beating the crap out of people or just killing them with a gaze, he didn't do so. Why? Well, that's another one of his weaknesses.
He's my son. Chosen by God, sure, but, made by me.
His insecurities leave him open to manipulation. Yes, he absolutely presents himself as someone who is strong, independent, and confident, but deep down, he's someone with a rat's ass worth of self-esteem. He has this, obsessive requirement, or rather need, to be loved by everyone around him. As long as this need is fulfilled, he's happy and gay. If not, things take a turn altogether. The reason behind this is quite simple, actually. During his childhood, he never really received any kind of human affection from the people around him. The people he grew up with, the Vought scientists, they called him names and bullied him. Naturally, he becomes pretty aggressive and loses his cool whenever someone puts his poster boy of America image in danger. He had insecurities when Stormfront was gaining more fans and love. The same happened when Ryan was being projected as a Supe in his own right, and not as a copy of Homelander. He just couldn't accept that someone else would share the love that he received. This makes him vulnerable to manipulation. People can use his need for love against him, which is something that his other personalities understand, but he does not. Oh yeah, he has a multiple personality disorder. Homelander's need for family makes him weak. Once again, his cold and lonely childhood left him bereft of any compassion or love. This led to a need to find a family when he grew up and become more independent. I'll give you examples. So he saw Stan Edgar as a father figure, right? And that's the reason why he constantly wanted Stan's approval. He was always wanting to prove himself before Stan. This nearly destroyed Vought International itself. Later, he found out about Ryan, his son, and could not control himself from trying to reconnect with Ryan. The idea of a son appealed to him so much that he ignored everything else, and ultimately lost Stormfront in the quest to connect with his son. Next, he learns about Soldier Boy. I mean, the fact that Soldier Boy was his biological father. Now, he was thinking that he could complete his family, a son and a father. He was so enraged about the secret being kept from him that he even killed Black Noir, someone who he really cared for. Homelander became so desperate to build a bond with Soldier Boy that he almost lost his powers. No wait, he almost lost his life to Soldier Boy, who wanted nothing to do with Homelander. There's one more point I can make here. So, A-Train was the mole all along, right? Homelander was left weeping like a baby after finding out that A-Train betrayed him and broke his trust, so much so that he even refused to drink his colleague's milk. Now that's a sentence I never thought I would say. Anyway, he may treat the members of the Seven in the most horrid and disrespectful ways, but he sees the Seven as his family, the only family he can have. Wow, this almost makes me feel sad for the guy. But then I remember the things he did to Becca, the people on that unfortunate flight, Blind Spot, there's just so many instances. Mothers can manipulate him, more like their milk. Yep, Homelander gets weak in the knees if some woman squirts her milk on his face. He had always been inclined towards building a strong relationship with female figures of authority and dominance, women who could act as a motherly figure. During his childhood, Vought was taking care of his education, and they employed female private tutors for him. He would go on to kill many of them simply by hugging them too tight. He would even ask them if he could call them his mother. Homelander eventually grew up, but his need for a mother remained unfulfilled. He knew that babies are breastfed, but he was never breastfed, and it was probably the thing that creates the strong bond between a mother and child. Fortunately for us, as we grow up, we shed all memories of the act, but Homelander never had that and kept relating it to motherhood. Anyway, in his adulthood, he got manipulated by Madeline Stillwell, who offered him the milk she would pump for her actual child. This could make Homelander dance to her tunes, at least for a while. Next, his Oedipus complex or mommy issues made him choose strong women as partners, women like Queen Maeve and Stormfront. The strongest case of an Oedipus complex hurting him and working against him could be made by taking Firecracker as an example. I mean, the woman has her brains in her knees. All she did was offer him some of her chest juice and he went gaga over her. So much so that he killed Webweaver without consulting Sister Sage and even fired her. He totally forgot that she was the mastermind of his plan to launch the Supes as first-class citizens of the country. He couldn't care less about the consequences, as long as he was getting a mouthful of freshly squeezed breast milk. Needless to say, it nearly cost him everything. But fortunately for him, Sister Sage had already taken care of everything. Aging. He might be the strongest Supe alive, but he cannot escape the punishment of time. So yeah, despite all his strength, he's not immortal. He's been collecting his white pubic hair in a jar, something which totally disgusted us and A-Train. When he first went to meet Sister Sage, he asked her to prove to him that she was the smartest person alive. Well, she does prove it, but he doesn't quite like it. During that conversation, it's revealed that Homelander's stylist was dyeing his hair every 17 days, while it used to be once every month. His prostate glands have also enlarged, because of which he's peeing more often. So yeah, even if he survives the boys, time will eventually kill him. However, there's a twist. You see, in the season finale, President Calhoun, his lapdog, brings him to meet Soldier Boy. Now, Soldier Boy doesn't really age, right? And Homelander's pretty worried about his aging. So he might use Vought's scientists to perform experiments on Soldier Boy to find out why he's not aging, and he may want to replicate the results for his own use. Zinc. Now this is a weakness faced by most superpowered people with X-ray vision. You know, not being able to see through certain elements. For instance, Superman can't see through lead, which has an atomic number of 82. On the other hand, Homelander can't see through zinc, which has an atomic number of 30, which means that lead is denser than zinc. And if Homelander's X-rays cannot pass through zinc, his X-ray vision's not as strong as Superman's. Anyway, we got to know about this particular weakness in the first season itself, when the boys capture Translucent and contain him in a box lined with zinc. I believe if he cannot see through zinc, then he would also fail to see through anything else that has a higher atomic number. Also, if anything's made up of zinc or anything denser, he would fail to see through it. Weakness caused by Compound V. Interestingly, Compound V is pretty much his bane as well as his boon. It's the substance that made him who he is. A 6 foot, few inches of raw power and emotional trauma. Anyway, the downside of Compound V is that it exists in his body. You see, because Homelander's powers don't originate because of who he is, Compound V could be targeted and used as a weakness. This is what the Supe virus was designed to do. His highly developed senses. Homelander revealed to Queen Maeve a unique limitation of his powers. The absence of a fulcrum diminishes his superhuman strength. To fully harness his capabilities, he needs a solid surface or leverage. Without something stable to push against, his ability to exert force is significantly reduced. This means that he's weaker while flying. Unlike Superman and other superheroes who can fly at super speed and change the direction at will, Homelander will have issues maneuvering himself while flying. If someone attacks him from different directions, he will have difficulty tackling them. Say if the battle happens over the sea, he would have issues countering blows that land on him. This, coupled with the fact that he's weak, makes him extremely vulnerable in the air.
Was she part of the attack?
Absence of fulcrum. In the Season 2 finale of The Boys, the team had to figure out how to rescue Ryan from Homelander and Stormfront's clutches. While they managed to devise weapons against Stormfront, Homelander's near invulnerability presented a unique challenge. Taking inspiration from Sun Tzu's tactics of avoiding direct confrontation with a powerful enemy and irritating a volatile one, the boys came up with an indirect strategy to distract Homelander. They set up a system of Vought sonic speakers that emitted a high-frequency noise at 190,000 hertz, a pitch well beyond normal human hearing, but agonizing for someone with supersensitive sensitive ears like Homelander. This high-pitched sound drove Homelander away in discomfort, providing Billy and Becca Butcher the crucial opportunity to retrieve Brian. This strategy mirrored a lesser-known vulnerability of Superman. His heightened senses can be overwhelmed. This aspect has occasionally been explored in various Superman media. For instance, in Superman the movie, Lex Luthor uses an ultrasonic frequency to capture Superman's attention. Similarly, in Man of Steel, young Clark Kent struggles with loud noises until he learns to control his senses. The most dramatic instance occurs in the Injustice Gods Among Us comic prequel, where Black Canary incapacitates Superman with a sonic scream, proving that even the mightiest can be brought low by exploiting their sensory sensitivities. So these were the top 12 weaknesses of Homelander that may become the reason for his death. If you think you have something else in mind, I'm happy to learn about them. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!